Welcome back to Dark Side of the Ring Unheard, the podcast from the hit Vice TV series that takes you deep into the depths of the Dark Side archives, hundreds of hours of interviews with some of wrestling's most celebrated, some of its least celebrated, and we're going to surface some one-of-a-kind insights this time for you. Don't forget, Dark Side of the Ring Season 6 resumes on Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Vice TV with a look at Vader. Ooh. A football hopeful turned wrestling super heavyweight monster who really redefined what a big man could do in a professional wrestling ring and whose savagery and demons would go on to haunt him later in life. And it's Jack Encarnacio, JP Sorrow from the Lapsed Fan Wrestling Podcast here, joined by co-creator and executive producer of Dark Side of the Ring.
Good to be back.
Evan Husney. Yes, very good to be back. And, you know, the Vader thing with his football background is kind of a nice fit for our subject this week on Unheard, because we're talking about a gentleman by the name of Kim Wood.
You're all going to love this guy.
This is the kind of stuff only Dark Side can bring to you, because you wouldn't think to interview this guy in such detail or comb back through some of the insights he provided on this one-of-a-kind business. Kim Wood is a figure who played a key role in one of the most memorable Dark Side treatments, Brian Pillman.
Yeah, that's right.
We remember that from season 3, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. The loose cannon Brian Pillman. Kim Wood, for nearly 30 years, was the strength and conditioning coach for the NFL's Cincinnati Bengals. And so by virtue of that, he was a mentor to Cincinnati native Brian Pillman, who you see there in Bengal tiger stripes from his WCW toy in the early 90s. And this is his Brian Pillman, you know, after his football dreams were sort of deferred. He's tried to find his way in professional wrestling, much like Vader, after his football career didn't quite work out the way he wanted to, and due to injury and things like that. And what's fascinating about Kim Wood is that he found himself mentoring Brian in wrestling, ramping up his entire understanding of the workings of this one-of-a-kind business. He's learning the history of con men. He's learning the history of manipulation, all with a design toward getting Brian Pillman into the wrestling business, make as much money as he can, and get out. That's not exactly what happened. As we know, Brian Pillman fell victim to drugs and other issues and met an untimely demise. But here we have in Kim Wood, a guy who, by studying the con jobs of the past, became this outsider who was a unique insider at the same time. He became an insider by necessity to the wrestling business. But because he was an outsider, he can look at it with the most acerbic, straightforward, no BS point of view.
Yes.
He's not worried about offending anybody.
Nope.
And it's a perspective you need to hear on
He's my fucking hero.
He is the perspective you need on what this business comes down to, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is just also like the magic of this world in terms of, as documentarians going into it, trying to document it, to film a story about it, these are the tangential personalities, colorful characters that orbit wrestling. You know, because if we're making a doc about some other world, you're not going to get as colorful characters on the sidelines as a Kim Wood is. But the Brian Pillman episode, just to take a few steps back, you know, is one that for me is one of my all-time favorites that we ever done on this show. It's quintessential for many reasons. You know, my partner in crime with this series, Jason Eisner, and I were so fascinated by, I think the main theme that we're fascinated by in wrestling is the blurred lines aspect between where do you draw the line between fact and fiction. And nobody I don't think anyone, I mean, you could argue that no one's done it better than Brian in terms of, I mean, obviously his life was cut short, due to tragedy, of course, but his pursuit of stardom in wrestling has so much to do with manipulating the manipulators, getting on the inside and trying to work his way to the top by working everybody around him.
Creating buzz around himself, because he's actually getting people to believe that he's behaving behind the scenes in a way that is completely aberrant and that the promoters don't want, but the promoters are in on creating, or want to be, in the case of WCW's Eric Bischoff, in on this creation of this myth that this guy is not getting along with the front office and there's all kinds of powder keg situations about to pop off.
Because at this time, getting into the mid to late 90s, you know, wrestling, there is a sort of grassroots level of, you know, wrestling smart fans who are getting hip to all the inner workings of the business.
Yes.
And they're starting to write about it. The internet's taking off. That's starting to get disseminated through that.
And wrestlers have to fool. They have to fool to feel good about themselves. So now the stakes are high because all the fans know how it really works.
The fans know how it really works. But Brian is so ahead of his time, was at that moment, that he decided, well, I'm going to work the smart fans. And if I can con them into believing what I'm doing is real, it's going to create this controversial buzz for who I am that's gonna make me someone who needs to, provide for many children,
Yes.
as seen in the episode, that much more, necessary to these two big wrestling companies. And we're going to try and spark a bidding war.
Yes.
And create interest in me, who's someone who's smaller than most wrestlers were. And he wasn't your prototypical, muscled out big man.
Yeah, he didn't have the easy glide path to wrestling stardom, so he had to create buzz around himself. JP, imagine going into the office and confronting your boss and saying, you know what? You know what would really get attention on us is if I pretended to have a fight with you and you pretended to have a fight with me, and word spread around the company that we had this big fight. Can you imagine how much more? Because this is a business of attention.
Yes, of course.
This is what they need, attention, or else they can't breathe. That's their oxygen. So let's pretend, you and me, boss man, that we just had a huge fight. And here's the thing. You give me my release to convince those people this is a real fight. And it's a real release. We got to go the extra step. Because if it's not a real release, someone in the office is going to tell that there is actually no paperwork filed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
That's the way you have to do it. Listen, if I don't care about actually, my own well-being. I care about fooling everybody else.
Yes.
They're thinking that my well-being is done. It's gone.
Fooling everyone else is my well-being.
That's right. That's exactly
well-being.
it. Fooling everyone else is my well-being.
Yeah.
Well,
Unwell-being, more like it.
Well, something that will be that we're going to illustrate here today with Kim Wood, to bring it back to Kim.
Yes.
Is, Kim realized that wrestlers are constantly exploited by promoters. That's been a theme here on this season of our podcast. But he realized that it is all a manipulation. The power brokers in wrestling are manipulating the talent, who of course then in turn manipulating the public. And so he instilled with Brian as his mentor that this is how you're going to go in and you're going to manipulate them to get what you want. Because the easiest marks are them, are the promoters, right? I mean, they're the people that you can con. So what I love about Kim Wood, and we're going to get into it today, is how he took Brian and made him a student of this game. And it's almost like, as you put with how, what an eccentric character Kim is, we wanted to lean into this into the episode, which we did. I mean, in the episode, you watch and you see it. He's the star of the show. Kim Wood steals every scene he's in our show, right? But we wanted to show to our audience that this is what the type of person Brian is dealing with.
Yes,
and
advising.
This is you can imagine these kitchen room conversations they had through the intensity in which Kim Wood.
3 a.m. It's their fourth pot of coffee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's all this
talking about cigarette. I imagine cigarette smoke all over the place. Even though I don't know if either of them's ever smoked, but I just imagine cigarette smoke.
Yeah, right.
For Kim Wood, if we can cue up clip 1 here. For Kim Wood, it starts from a very basic place. Okay, he puts it in a way that I think is just so true, because he's looking at this and he's like, okay, Brian, you're going to get into this business. You can make money in this business, but if you hang on too long, you're going to be a sad sack case. You're going to be one of those wrestlers that can barely walk, yet has to go in the ring and pretend to have a fight with somebody so you can make $200.
Right.
That is not why we want you in this business. We want you to exit much more gracefully than that. And here, to get us started, Kim Wood talks about his assessment of the business that Brian was about to enter into.
Here he is.
Most of the pro wrestlers, and Brian said this, and when I got to know him, I think it was true, almost all the people in pro wrestling are mentally ill.
Already, fire out the gate.
Fucking money.
Let's go.
Awful, wrong, missing. Because they're being dominated in a cruel way by the people that run it. And they would, they'd gack themselves up. They were, the drugs were huge. The steroid drugs, and only somebody who's really insecure is going to turn that way. But if somebody's their basic response to life is one of fear and inadequacy, that's the way to go. Well, that's what pro wrestling was. And the point is, but they would, they would literally try to zombieize these guys so they wouldn't have problems, the people that ran wrestling. And I mean, it was fascinating because there was fascinating characters, and I was interested in characters.
And I do appreciate this about Kim, the idea that, he's a fan of, well, not maybe fan's the wrong word, but he's fascinated by the bizarreness of this world, and the carniness of all of this. And, we are too.
Yeah.
Looking into this
right.
this business, it's the same thing. So I can relate to him, being an outsider, but yet being just so fascinated by the inner workings of this very bizarre, exotic.
And to the point about Vader, it's not unlike pro football players who don't make it, because they carry themselves, the guys he's accustomed to shepherding into the world, these pro football hopefuls, they want to be able to walk around with their chest puffed out, and to be able to feel like a huge presence in every room they walk in. And they're not going to settle for a life where they can't be the giant in the room.
Yeah.
And that's the psychological predilection that you can take advantage of when you're a wrestling promoter in these guys.
Such a weird, that's such a weird dynamic, really, when you think about it. Like
here's a guy who has to be somebody. I can really exploit that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, again, you want to have these larger than life characters, and you look at the football players, like you're just saying, the idea that they want to act big and they want to act tough, and it's another bizarre form of needing to be accepted.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, it makes me sad in some ways that there's just not enough self-assuredness that they can say, you know what, I'm fine the way that I am.
Right.
Yeah, if wrestling doesn't like me, I don't have to go into a tailspin.
We probably wouldn't have wrestling if people were that self-assured.
Yeah, right.
Well, bring us more truth, Kim.
Okay.
And but I wasn't interested in what the product was. I mean, I couldn't care less. I'm a football guy, and I know. But the point is that it was interesting. I thought Brian would do well because, quite frankly, I didn't know what else he could do.
Now that's another thing. I don't mean to keep cutting him off, but that's another thing where it's like that's a story you hear a lot.
Yes.
Especially with that generation and the generation before. I'm sure all the way back to the beginning. There's a lot of guys who or there's a lot of hopefuls that get into this business because there's nothing else they can do.
Yes.
They don't have the trade skills, but they have this physique, or they have a body, or they have a look, or they have something about them.
Yep.
And
if they wanted to be pro football stars, they thought they were on a track to just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like they're just huge athletes, and they just don't have to do anything. They don't have to have a real job because they're above that.
Right.
And when you find out that you're not, it's a really tough place to be in.
Yeah, they're like cultural outsiders. They're people who are just on the fringes, and they're not meant for normal life or normal jobs.
They have this savagery about them, as he keeps talking about. The football players have it too. Like they're just willing to go further than the next guy to crush somebody.
Right.
They won't take their foot off that gas.
Right. Okay, Kim.
And that is somebody who had the savagery that he had, wasn't going to adjust, or adjusting to what people understand as normal life would be such a hard thing that I just thought he would hit it off. And I thought pretty much the way he pretty much almost did it, that he would be smart enough and tough enough to transcend pro wrestling. Either he'd end up running it, or he would get a movie contract. And because again, pro wrestling was always viewed by me and the people I knew that were connected to it as something that you got to be awful careful, because once you get in it, you can't get out of it. And people would do it when they were old men. They would be hangers-on. And like I say, football's kind of like that too. That's what football coaching was, guys that still wanted to be part of the game. And the people who had the excitement and the fun and the power that distinguishes you from ordinary people is not something that you want to say goodbye to. And the point is so it's, like I say, you have to understand that many pro football people, many college football people, they have a tough time readjusting to normal life. Once you get involved with,
it's like war. It's like being
precisely.
It's like going overseas or whatever.
You're a civilian again.
Yeah, you're a civil, or being in prison. And trying to go straight afterwards. It's just you can't readjust to act. To the ground level of real life. Once you've lived that life of a wrestler. Football player, perhaps.
With wrestling, where they screw with your mind and they create you and turn you into a character, a fantasy character, I don't think you got a chance of getting out of there. And Brian's deal wasn't going to get me. And I think at the end it kind of did.
Wow.
It was by default because he was the car wreck. But the point is wrestling's something that you can meet women and you can be a big deal person and live an almost fantasy life, okay? But it's the old deal of you can get on the tiger's back, but how are you going to get off? and nobody gets off of pro wrestling. I mean, I actually feel sorry for the poor fuckers that are in pro wrestling because they you know, there's more to life than that.
Well, Kim, you've certainly raised the bar.
Now help me out. Is that Kim Wood or is that actor Kurtwood Smith?
Yeah, I know.
There's
Totally.
And is that tiger you can't get off a Bengal tiger? By any chance?
I said that like I remember sitting there right when I was doing the setting up the camera because we had this gimmick where we look through the lens and he sees me, I see him, and I thought the villain in RoboCop. Yeah, that's exactly.
It's totally Kurtwood Smith. The moment I saw his face the first time.
And if you're in the business scoffing at what Kim Wood is saying about wrestlers, all I'd say is don't be mad that he's talking about you.
Yeah.
Don't be mad that he's talking about you. And to hear Kim tell it was mischief from the beginning for Brian Pillman in the wrestling business. He found his way over to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where Bret Hart's father, Stu Hart, ran a wrestling gym as well as organization. And then his son, Bruce, as well, took over the territory. And so Brian Pillman goes out there and starts training to be in the wrestling business. And, of course, Brian's drawn into a wrestler's ability to trick people into emoting and things like that. Yeah. And as Kim told us, as he gets on the road for Calgary, on the road for the Stampede Wrestling Organization, to pass the time, you would do what's called ribs. And if you're not acquainted by now, it's a practical joke you play on somebody else. You can steal their luggage. You can do a million things.
It's usually more than just a practical joke.
It's usually cruel.
It's usually cruel. It's usually
mean-spirited. Yeah,
mean-spirited and disgusting.
Yeah, especially in this territory.
Yeah, like it's stuff that only I feel like you can laugh at from our vantage point in a weird way. Like if you're involved with it, it's psychotic.
It is.
So you can get clip 3 ready because what we have here is a wrestler coming into the territory by the name of Bill Kazmaier, who was just a huge strongman wrestler. Oh, yeah. I think he was able to lay claim to being the strongest man in the world in like 1991.
He's a bodybuilder, yeah.
When WCW brought him in for a very brief period of time. Oh, yeah.
Powerlifter,
yeah. He had records in powerlifting. Yeah. And that's why they were trying to make him a pro wrestler. But Pillman kind of resented the guy. He kind of wanted to mess with him on the road. And to Kim's point.
Well, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they wanted him out of the territory.
They wanted him to just be like, this isn't for me.
They wanted him to be, this isn't for me. So this is another con, one of the many we'll be talking about, I'm sure throughout this episode. And it was a way for Brian Pillman and Jerry Morrow, the
wrestler's name.
Right. It was an African-American wrestler, and they were friends.
Yes. Brian and Jerry Morrow were friends.
It's very important to understand
they're in on this together.
You got to understand that they're in on this together.
Yeah.
And they're going to pull a rib to get this Kazmaier guy running for the hills.
Yes. Okay? They want him to think he has not chosen the right business. Behold now, thanks to Kim Wood, what is known as the Calgary rib.
The Calgary rib.
I'm getting hungry.
All right, here we go.
But anyway, so what happens is it's like, let's pull a thing on Kazmaier. So one of the wrestlers.
Let's pull this thing on Kazmaier.
Did you see how pregnant that pause was?
It's so good. Man. I mean, if you didn't notice from the previous clip, again, it's just
a master.
He's a master of just delivery, timing.
You can see him being someone a pro football team would put in charge of motivating athletes to push themselves in the gym.
Oh yeah,
this is so good. We'll talk later about how frustrating the interview became.
Yes. Of course,
but. In hindsight, looking back, this is a gold interview. Love it.
Was a black guy named Jerry Morrow. I think he since died of a heart attack, okay? And evidently him and Pillman were close. So all of a sudden, though, Pillman starts telling terrible, racist jokes.
Now remember, they're friends.
Yes.
This is all part of the
to get Bill Kazmaier to think they're in an argument.
Right.
Just to make that double clear.
Pillman starts calling out Jerry Morrow, calling him the worst things you could think of of a racial nature. Yeah. Okay. So what happens is, then finally, and they're in the tundra on their way to Medicine Hat, okay?
In Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, and you got to know that these trips these guys would go on in Calgary, I mean, it's like full
Iceland.
whiteout. You
It
can't.
looks like Frozen out there from the Disney Frozen
Oh, yeah.
world.
Yeah, it's literally like
my
if your car breaks down, you're fucking dead.
Wow.
You know, like so they're in this whole environment, and all of a sudden these two guys are fabricating, of course, but they're now at each other's throats, and it's like, oh my god, really? In this setting where we all could fucking die, this is gonna happen? All right, here we go.
And they say, Pillman said, that's it, pull it over. So they pull the bus over and they said, well, get out. And they get a couple guys grab Morrow. Now you got to understand, he's in on it. And they tie him to the front of the van.
Can you imagine?
Watching someone tie someone else to the front of the van and not knowing that this is all a put on to scare you.
I mean, just the idea that they're all willing to go to this length to do it as well is like what the fuck?
This is really demented shit. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But meanwhile, Morrow blades. They take a little razor blade and they click here. Well, the blood doesn't show up for about 30 seconds. So
just so everybody knows, what's happening here is, Jerry Morrow taking a little razor blade he probably has that he'd use to get blood during a match.
This is how wrestlers do it.
This is how they do it.
I imagine it's rusty and
yeah, right. It's been shared around. Yeah. But also, and Kazmaier probably isn't hip to things like blading.
Sure.
Right.
So he probably doesn't know like what that's all about.
Right.
I'm guessing. And so Jerry Morrow does it right probably before they start tying him up, to the car. Crazy.
Well, they're still in the thing. He cuts his head, so he goes, and Pillman pretends like he's hitting him. Okay, and all of a sudden he's bleeding. He's tied up, and that's it. And Pillman says, "That's it. I'm going to kill him. You guys are with me?" And they go, "Yeah." Well, it was all a fake. Kazmaier says, "That's it. I'm out of here." So he hitchhikes back to Calgary.
Mission accomplished.
By the time the troop comes back from Medicine Hat, he's cleaned out his apartment. He's gone. Wow. He's gone. And he finally, Pillman never got a chance to fight him. He'd kill him, But I mean, the guy's 150 pounds bigger than he is, and he's all roided out to the gills. Okay, but the point is that Calgary Rib involves some serious thought, because evidently these guys, they couldn't have read a lot of books, or they couldn't have had much deep thinking. But they're thinking of just shitty things to do to each other while they're driving through the tundra. Okay.
I mean, Bill Kazmaier thinks they're going to murder this guy.
I know.
And I'm going to stand here and watch it.
Yeah.
And this is all done because this guy's, kind of annoying and we want him gone.
Yeah, just because he's kind of annoying. He's like kind of annoying. We don't really like him. We don't want to be in the car with him.
I'm feeling a little iffy about him. I want him out of here.
Let's pretend to murder somebody.
Psychotic. Well, yeah, or like a hate crime.
Right. Right. Exactly. Let's do a hate crime murder. Perfect.
It's just like
perfect.
And the point is, Brian Pillman is falling in love with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He loves this stuff.
Yeah.
He lives to participate and to successfully execute on this kind of stuff. And it's going to get out of hand.
Yeah, the cons and trying to manipulate people. And because all of this, like I said earlier, is, the stuff that, he would use to his advantage to try and basically get ahead in wrestling on the fast track. How can I fast track my success going from a mid-card guy to the main event scene by just creating this reputation that I'm a fucking madman and I'm going to do whatever it takes, or I'm going to do anything that you can't predict.
Well, we heard Kim Wood say almost in a literary sense, he took an interest in how wrestlers do this and how they manipulate and con each other. And so as Pillman is leaning on Kim Wood for advice on how to navigate the wrestling business, in this clip here, clip 4, Kim's going to explain how he developed a friendship with Dave Meltzer, who's the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is like the leading source for backstage information about what's really happening in the business. And it's the kind of thing that people would turn to find out what's really happening in wrestling instead of what the pretend is. And so Kim is working along with Dave to understand all this and understand how the business worked and how top earners, the people who made the most money, position themselves to keep that spot. Not only get it, but keep it. And that's what he wants for Brian Pillman, of course, and how the fake nature of the business made the backstage backstabbing all the more real, right? Because it is fake, the backstabbing is real. And as he says, the easiest guy to con is a con man. And he gets to, as Kim Wood's about to explain, he goes into his study, let's say, and he pulls out some of the great material that I can't wait to talk to you guys about, about conning other people. It's a rich vein of literature and movies and things. So here's Kim on how he got educated on how to go about helping Brian Pillman con his way to success in the wrestling business?
You got to understand, I was a fan of pro wrestling. And the Dave Meltzer, I read his thing, and we became very good friends. And I thought wrestling was interesting. I never really watched it much on TV. I'd watch Japanese tapes that Dave sent me.
He likes that shit.
I was gonna say it's hilarious. Like he doesn't watch American wrestling, but he watches Japanese.
Yeah,
stuff.
he likes that shit.
likes tape trading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stop,
something's
Bobby.
well, all due respect, someone tells me Kim Wood's a bigger wrestling fan than he lets him.
Oh,
But let's leave that
absolutely.
off to the side.
100%. But I'm sure he appreciated the athleticism and the
sure.
toughness or whatever.
I really wasn't, I guess I would be a smart mark, but the point is, it was so perverse, the behind the scenes thing, that I was fascinated by that, almost from a literary standpoint.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. Is
Yes.
that it's like, I can relate to that 100%.
Yes.
The pro wrestlers could be worked. I mean, what you got to understand is this. It was all based on what was done, what we did was all based on what Arthur Jones used to say was the easiest man to con is a con man.
And there you go.
And I really viewed most pro wrestlers were guys that
I mean, that must have been the sound guy's cell phone that fell.
Well, as soon as he says the easiest guy to con is a con man, someone in that room was gotten to.
Someone got nervous. Someone got nervous.
There's a con man in our midst.
yeah, exactly.
Someone's bolting.
He
for
couldn't
the door
hide
right
the
now.
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
weren't, again, a great number of them were football players and guys that they were caught like Brian. What are they going to do with my life? So I'll go into this and I do this. And okay, they're just guys. They're lumpies, but they'll play along, and it's a chance some of them made tremendous amount of money. A lot of them didn't make anything. But again, it was this bizarre thing where they were. The point is that they all could be conned and worked. And Brian studied David Maurer's The Big Con book. Okay, William Lindsay Gresham's The Nightmare Alley, which deals with the same thing of carnies, working people. Okay, and the movie with Tyrone Power, Nightmare Alley, of how do you make a geek. That was the center theme of it. And then David Mamet had a thing that actually was stolen from David Maurer's The Big Con, and it was a thing called The House of Games.
Great film, by the way, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, it was incredible that he referenced this, because I think it was like, that's pretty amazing. Like, this 80s David Mamet film is what, Brian Pillman is being a student of and watching. Yep. And it's like, just, not many wrestlers are coming at it from
operating at that level.
Yeah, operating this level of like just being they're usually just students of the wrestling game, but to be a student also of
manipulation.
Well, and there's another level with Nightmare Alley too, coming soon under the Cinemat, by the way.
Oh, thank you for that.
Because Nightmare Alley features wrestler, actor Mike Mazurki.
That's right.
So there's like a whole other level of that, a whole layer of that for wrestling.
Those worlds are very related, but
yes,
I digress.
In which they're teaching a woman to be a con person, and she's fascinated by this whole culture that she never knew was there. And the point is that so the context of what Brian did was the fact that he'd been studying the behavior of all the people around him, and why they were there, and what their strengths were, what their inadequacies were.
Amazing.
Facial expressions on that guy too.
I know.
They're just outrageous. They're amazing.
Tell us about Nightmare Alley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was going to mention that when we showed up, to do the interview with Kim, I think he was sizing us up quite a bit.
For sure.
Like,
kidding me?
Who the fuck are these marks?
Right.
Who are these guys? And we're fucking Mark.
Yep.
He has every right to do that. And so we're I think one of the things when you interview someone who's in as intense of a personality as that, and legit, and and all that stuff, you are trying to find that common ground with somebody to break the ice. So there is a level you can establish, that level of like relatability.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the con. I'm trying to fucking no, it's not.
No.
I'm just messing. But like and as soon as we started talking and he was dropping, House of Games, the movie he brought up. It's like, oh shit, I love that movie. And so I think being able to relate, to him on that level about, seeing the film and how I can see the correlation between that and what he's talking about, or Nightmare Alley, and be like, yo, bro, I got a first edition Nightmare Alley,
That's wild.
Yeah.
Talk about speaking his language.
Yeah, right. And just to be like, oh, wow. So this guy really, knows more about what we're saying. And this is from 1946, but this is the first edition of Nightmare Alley, which, is about the circus, and it is about creating the geeks, the people that would bite the heads off of chickens in the circus and everything. So it's just amazing that Brian is a student of stuff like this.
Yeah. It makes me wonder too, like when you guys went in for the interview, like knowing that now that Kim Wood has got so much, like he's in that game. If you went in there and you said, just to start things off, Kim, we all think wrestling's real.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes from there.
Right. That's a great entree.
Exactly. So that's just amazing just to learn about, these touch points with Brian and with Kim, and Kim just being somebody who's introducing Brian to all of these other just aspects and other tools that he would later use to kind of create this loose cannon persona. It's just, it's amazing.
And
so
to be
cool.
the talk of wrestling.
Yeah.
Because this guy is this guy's acting out. This guy is unpredictable, and the things he's doing are fooling everyone around him. Got to be real. So soon he makes his way to WCW, does Brian Pillman, and it becomes kind of like a brainstorming with him and Kim Wood. How can you get maximum attention? Clip 5 will help us with this. It's at this point a wrestling legend who we've heard about before and who we featured last season on Unheard, Terry Funk.
Oh, yeah.
Gets to consulting with Brian Pillman about what some of the things he might be able to do to get a lot of attention on himself outside of the world of wrestling. And here Kim Wood tells us about how, with the help of Terry Funk, they conjured up an idea to go to the Super Bowl that year in Arizona, and leverage the fact also that one of the top WCW executives / announcers, Jim Ross, used to rely on Kim Wood for Super Bowl tickets. Jim Ross, as we know, a huge NFL fan. And so the gears start turning, and this is what Kim Wood and Terry Funk almost come up with. It doesn't quite consummate for reasons Kim will explain. On how Brian Pillman can use the biggest event in America, the Super Bowl, to get more attention on himself.
To his own advantage. Yeah, this is another story that was very close to making it in the episode. And again, you could just see how this would come to life with the reenactments and everything. But this is a really good example of where their heads were at in terms of how can this guy, who's a mid-card talent, create, controversy and create,
Seriously.
And
wonder where he learned that.
Right. No shit. But also just create a moment that transcends wrestling, right? So here we go.
I would get Super Bowl tickets for JR just to sweeten it up, say, when he was with WCW. And pictures of Oklahoma football players. JR is a fan of Oklahoma. And they were all, we had a bunch of guys from Oklahoma on my team, but autograph pictures. And I wrote it down, But the deal is
that's amazing.
I autographed the pictures. He thought they were real.
He autographed the pictures to JR. I mean, these guys are fucking,
This guy's operating on many different levels. I know half the things he says, I'm like, interesting.
Yeah. One of the best workers.
This guy's got so many schemes going on at the same time.
I know.
He's just waiting for the right window in order to just deploy. Exactly.
He's one of the he's one of the greatest workers in the business, and he's not even in the business.
He's so great, he's not in the business.
Yeah, right.
Terry Funk comes in and says, "I see what you're doing." He says, "I got an idea. Super Bowl's in Phoenix this year. Is at Sun Devil Stadium." They didn't have metal detectors in those days. He says, "This is the deal." This is Terry Funk talking. You get Wood to give you Super Bowl tickets. You put chains inside your clothes. Just the way I'm wired up with his mic,
That's He's ribbing us throughout this whole fucking interview, which we'll get to shortly.
And these mics, okay. And what you do is this. Sometime during the Super Bowl game, you go to the little bleacher there and drop down. It's only 5 feet. And then you take the chain out, and you got a big ass, steel tempered padlock, and chain yourself to the goalpost and sit down. It'll take at least 15 minutes. It'll stop the game.
Unbelievable.
Everyone in the world will be watching you. They're going to know who you are. You're going to get arrested. You might have to spend night in jail, but it's not a nobody's going to get hurt. But all of a sudden, you're going to literally steal 15 to 20 minutes before they get the right kind of cutters to cut the tempered chain and the lock. He says that is the most watched event.
Amazing.
And that is what you're going to do is you're going to keep your scam going. The loose cannon. That you're the loose cannon. You have a grievance. God. I mean, what you got is it's close to the psychic terrorism that we see every night on TV. Okay, and it was brilliant. Except I'm going, no, I'm not giving you Super Bowl. They know where every Super Bowl ticket goes because the players are all scalping them, and they knew what they scalped. I knew that through my involvement with the NFL. And I said, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. And the point is, he was pissed but again, the point is because when the end result is attention, where do you stop?
God damn.
Where do you stop, indeed?
I went ahead and told Kim Wood.
I went ahead and I said, no.
It's too bad that didn't happen because it's so. I mean, like just think. Like, I mean, there are other moments in like TV history when stuff like that has happened.
Yeah.
What was that, soy bomb or that guy?
Streakers running on it.
Streakers, and like that would be one of the highlight reel moments.
Oh, always.
And then it's
always.
he's a wrestler. And then what's the story? Where is it coming from? And then he would have gotten the biggest contract.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it sucks that A, that didn't happen. B, that's not in the episode.
Did he say what year that was? I don't know if he said in the clip
I would
or
say
not.
95.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
somewhere in the mid 90s.
Yeah, that's
but it's
wild.
just like, man, that's incredible. But you can see how dramatically for the episode it'd be hard to fit that in because it didn't happen, and
Yeah, right.
it
if it doesn't
has,
if it doesn't consummate,
Yeah.
because there's so much that did consummate with Brian
Yeah.
Pillman.
It's true.
That you got to.
Yeah.
And the thing, key word he used there was grievance. I think one thing to understand about where Pillman was coming at with his character is not just that he had an argument with WCW management. It's that he had a grievance and he's showing up everywhere, including ECW,
Right. Yeah.
which an ostensibly unaffiliated organization from
Right.
WCW, and just going off and talking trash about everyone, and just you didn't know when he was going to show up. You didn't know what kind of crazy acting out behavior he's going to engage in, and this would have been part of it. Like he's so desperate to have his grievance heard that he shows up at the Super Bowl and chains himself to the goalpost to get attention on his cause. Right? So that's just like no one's operating at that level in wrestling, trying to get attention on themselves.
No.
And so they started doing these stunts to get attention. And so, as you go, you hear about this. And as he's talking about the many things that Brian Pillman, he gives you Easter eggs that he would put in some of his appearances and some of the things he'd say, he talks about the Foxcatcher 5.
Oh man.
I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, John DuPont.
Yeah.
If anyone's seen the film The Foxcatcher with Steve Carell, it won an Academy Award, didn't it?
No, he didn't. He nominated. He had
Nominated, okay.
Yeah. It's a great film. Yeah.
2014.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
John DuPont, of course, the heir to the DuPont family. He'll get into this in the clip. Kim Wood, who had an obsession with amateur wrestling, and had the compound there in Pennsylvania where the top guys in the U.S. Olympic team would come to train. Ultimately, was convicted of murdering one of those wrestlers.
Yeah. Quite
famously,
the story.
infamously.
Yeah.
And so this is all going on, and there's also an element.
What was in the news, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what was happening, or when in the story he's about to tell?
Yes,
It was just in the. It
was
was in
known.
in the zeitgeist.
And the Foxcatcher 5, he'll describe in his own colorful terms what that was.
Let me set this up.
Please.
So
Because I don't know what else to say at this point.
I know. It does. It's crazy. So this kind of speaks to just the, what our experience was of capturing this interview with Kim. So far, we've seen dynamite. We've seen excellent, his delivery, his facial expression. It's all 10 out of 10. But this is one of the lengthier interviews we've ever done. Okay, I think it clocks in around 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Okay, and that's a long time for a Dark Side interview.
Just so you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's normally it's like 2 hours. Okay, so this is like double.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, and I'm sitting there, and we've been on the road, and we've been traveling all around, and we're doing tons of these interviews, and as good as all this stuff is, the focus to get Kim to focus on the sound bites, because I'm sitting there, I'm staring at pages of things to get to that I got to get to, and this is a 2-hour episode, you know, and so it was difficult to navigate because when you ask him one question, it sparks a backstory to the backstory, and then other this and other past. That
comes through reading even the transcript.
Yeah. You know, and some of it's gold, and some of it's like, wow, I gotta kind of wait for 10 minutes for him to get through this one thing, and then I'm just trying to bring it back. And it's with someone who's kind of as intense as he is, he don't like that.
No.
Right.
You know, sometimes people
I wouldn't
don't.
open my mouth if I didn't have a story worth telling.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's kind of a skill that one develops over time doing these interviews where, you know, you might talk to them beforehand and say, look, if I interrupt you, don't take my head off. It's just we gotta, you know, see all this stuff. We gotta get, you know, whatever. Anyway, so he starts going into this John DuPont Foxcatcher rabbit hole that really has not germane to why we're here. And there's only so many of those we can afford. And he does not appreciate me trying to bring us back to the matter at hand, you know? And so Kim Wood is a legend for this, what we're about to see. What clip is this?
We're looking at clip 6. In the Foxcatcher 5.
Oh, boy.
Get yourself familiar. Pillman mentions it in a wrestling interview he does. It's just an offhanded remark, something that most would go over most people's heads, but those who got it are like, this guy's making reference to some weird stuff.
I mean, you're just staring at this for 4 hours.
Oh, man.
This is not...
Take a good look.
A face you want to fuck with.
I imagine that those eyes would just burn holes.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this. You know? All right, so here we go. Jesus. So he really wants to get his shit in, to use a wrestling.
Like most wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here we go. Right.
One of the greatest ones was the Foxcatcher 5. Okay? I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh.
Okay, that first was like when you record scratch, you know?
And he's reading the court proceedings from a guy named Dan Chade, who's suing John DuPont. You aware who he is?
No.
DuPont was a guy.
Sorry, Kim, can we go just to this thing real quick?
I gotta tell you, Foxcatcher 5. Otherwise, I'll fucking walk.
Okay.
You're damn right. You're damn right.
Shut the fuck up. You shut up and you sit there and you let me finish my story.
I don't care if I'm talking about making chili. You're going to sit there and shut the fuck up.
As we're discussing who to feature on Unheard, you were like right away, Kim Wood, what he told me, I'll fucking walk. That's got to be in there.
It's the best. I mean, it's just the greatest way to tell me to fuck off imaginable. Just like, if I don't get this in, I'm going to fucking walk.
Exactly.
You know?
You'll see.
Fucking great.
It's so good. I'm going to back that up.
Oh my God. Kim Wood, ladies and gentlemen.
He does not like me interrupting. And he tries to first talk over me interrupting, and then I try again. So this is kind of the whole, you know, back and forth we're getting into for 4.5 hours. That is the interview, just a microcosm. As good as he was, and he's amazing in the episode. Again, he's the star of the show.
Or who he is?
No.
DuPont was a guy.
Sorry, Kim, can we go just to this thing real quick?
I gotta tell you, Foxcatcher 5. Otherwise, I'll fucking walk.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
The
smile and like that's also like I'm gonna fucking walk.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep. And I'll kick you on the way out.
Yeah.
But he had the whole amateur wrestling group came, and he had a field house, but then he had little kids, and he ended up shooting David Schultz, the Olympic wrestler, the great amateur wrestler. But the guy's big thing was little kids. And in the court proceedings of a guy suing him, Chade, who was about a 190-pounder amateur wrestler, because he sued DuPont, but he would say that the wrestlers would go and they would say, beware the Foxcatcher 5, because he would wrestle these 5 little kids and grab them by the fucking package.
So the Foxcatcher 5 were 5 fingers that he would, you know, use in a very impolite way.
Jesus Christ.
Dark and scary.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone.
Okay. So, but I thought, I'm saying this is a test. Not who listens to Rush Limbaugh, but who's just aware of anything. And the point is, he's doing ads on Turner's TV promos.
Brian Pillman is.
Beware the Foxcatcher 5.
Oh my God.
This is what Pillman's doing on wrestling television, and people don't even know what he's talking. Yeah, exactly. Take a look.
Foxcatcher 5.
Take a look at the 5 digits,
look
folks.
At that. No.
We know about John DuPont.
We do know about John DuPont.
On The Lapsed Fan, yeah.
Absolutely.
He's quite a character.
This is insane. So Brian's doing this.
He's a patriot, that we know.
Brian's doing this to see if it's going to get picked up, and the correlation is going to be made in the press, right? Right. So, and of course, it didn't, but
a wrestler is using
right.
court proceedings.
Yeah, right.
You can hear the news report.
Insane. Sorry.
And nobody got it. Meltzer didn't even get it. But the point is, we were working on all kinds of things so you can become distinctive, so you can become different. Because that's the name of what this game is. This is like pure fashion, nothing authentic. You know, you got to be, the fact that he was the real thing, that helps for staying power.
I love that Kim Wood's like the Dick Cheney of Brian Pillman, like, you know, pulling the strings behind the scenes all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the thing he had to get in. You know,
absolutely.
He's proud of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can tell it didn't land, so he wants to give it life there.
So
eventually it becomes Pillman, talking WCW boss Eric Bischoff into granting him a real release, as we talked about, to fool everyone into thinking this tension with the front office is very real. So other wrestlers believe that's happening, and that would add intrigue. So here in this next clip 7, Kim Wood talks about how the first idea was to concoct a story where Pillman had attacked Eric Bischoff physically. That was the first idea. They get word around that Pillman actually went after Bischoff, but soon that was kind of talked down, and it morphed into a different attention-grabbing scheme, all with the design, of course, of bringing up Brian's market value. And I do want to say you might recognize a little bit of this clip because some of it did make the Pillman episode.
How could it not?
As it had to.
Yep.
But what we're trying to do here also is provide the lead-in to some of the more memorable quotes you'll hear as well on the episodes themselves. So here it is in full context, the story of Brian Pillman working his release from WCW and what the point was.
Yep.
And this is also too just like also indicative of the experience of the interview too, because you'll see he raises his voice in this, and I think that's out of a little frustration with me in terms of this kind of back and forth that we're getting into. I see. But it's also, it does add to the performance of the line that you may remember from the show. Anyway, here we go.
The point is that what you have is the boys, or the close people,
boys being another term for the wrestlers,
are all reality challenged.
It's as if it's sent from heaven.
Seriously.
Reality challenge.
Reality challenge. That's the phrase. I'm making a t-shirt about that one for sure.
Reality challenge.
I mean, that's just money. I don't have to say anything else.
No.
Okay.
Look at that face.
Oh, wait. Yeah, hold on.
Reality challenge. He knows he delivered it.
Yeah.
He knows he landed
absolutely.
the line.
Look at him. Look at him.
Reality challenge.
He knows that's the fucking bite right there.
Right.
That's the phrase that's going to change the world.
It's incredible. Okay.
They don't know what's real. They think everything's a work. They bet on sports. They think every fight, every football game, every Super Bowl, they're all fixed. Because that's all they understand.
Yes.
And politics, I'm sure.
Yes. Amen.
Is fixed sports. Okay? So you have constantly inside their coconuts.
Sorry.
So money.
So good.
God.
What's real and what's not real. Even they're confused. Okay? Or challenged by it.
The pauses here. This is like a best supporting actor.
Oh, totally. Listen, he's got the timing. Everything
cadence,
about it. Yep.
The grit,
the delivery. Like there's the gravitas. Like he's got it all.
The weight.
Yes.
The poetry.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, sorry.
The point is, the document that he sent was real.
The release document.
Therefore, it's not a worked thing. It isn't what it really was, and that is Bischoff working the boys.
Because it had to be real. In order for this all to work, this release out of his contract had to be real. So
otherwise, word would get around that he was never actually given a release, and they're trying to fake us.
Right. But this is the way. This is the path. For anyone not familiar with the story, he needs this release from WCW in order to create a bidding war between WCW and WWF.
Right.
He needs to get out of the
Now
WCW.
he's a free agent.
Now he's a free agent, but he's getting Eric Bischoff to go along with it and even think that it's his idea in part.
Remember,
you
I
know?
came back to you, I said, what if you went into your office
Yeah.
and said, hey, boss, what if we pretended to have a fight to get attention on us?
Yeah.
And the second order effect is no one's going to believe it unless you actually let me go.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he lets you go to
Right.
keep this facade up, and then you go and bolt
That's what I'm
to the
saying.
competitor.
Right. And of course, Eric does dispute this to this day.
He does. In the episode, he's very clear
Yeah.
that he was not taken for this kind of
He
ride.
was not taken, but one may say that if he can walk away with that sentiment, then
If he was granted his release, then he did
he pulled it
exactly
off.
what he said he was going to do.
I wouldn't want to admit that I was fucking
yeah.
dupe
fair.
like this
Yeah,
too. You know.
yeah.
Fair. Okay. Kim?
And see, the wrestling locker room had never been invaded that way before. It hadn't been split that way before. But it counted on Bischoff going for the concept, which he did. And that is, like I say, the first thing was, let me beat the shit out of you, boss. He didn't, somehow he didn't want to go with that one. But then let's do this. We end up in a huge fight, and then it's carried over into my performance. Then I'm suspended, but then I keep wrestling. I come in my own, and he did go on his own. He didn't fly with a bunch. He paid his own way. He stayed in his own place. He bought his own ticket, and then he walked down and walks in and beats up a couple of guys in the ring. And people are going, holy shit, this might be real.
You know, one of the things, just real quick to stop him here too, is like when we talked about House of Games, right? The movie, a big part of that movie, as he described, is it's these con men who bring a journalist into their inner world, right? To document how these cons happen. But the twist in the movie, sorry, spoiler, is that it turns out that journalist becomes their biggest victim of their biggest con, and they think the whole time that they're now I'm into this, I'm privy to this seductive world, and I'm going to be someone who's going to be able to be on the inside of this. But then they manipulate her all the way until the end to where they use her to be the biggest fall person for their biggest con heist, whatever that they've ever pulled. So so if you're thinking about that in terms of what Kim is studying and what Brian is being an audience to, it's just fucking amazing that they're applying it to this world, which is a world saturated in lies and deceit and whatever.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of intrigued by the idea that, people want to tell themselves that they are immune from bullshit, that they can't be fooled, that bullshit only comes from car salesmen and like two other people. But, in reality, unless you acknowledge that you can be fooled, you're fooling yourself.
Exactly.
Right. And so wrestling is uniquely positioned to take advantage of people like that, because if you think you're the fooler and no one can ever fool you, then my God, are you a sitting duck for this kind of stuff?
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
sitting duck.
You're just ripe for that. You're ripe for being conned yourself.
That journalist is brought in feeling, I can't be conned because I have a direct line of sight into how the con works. And it's like, no, my friend, that's just another exhibit in this massive hallway.
Well, it'll be the easiest way to manipulate somebody is if they think that they can let their guard down.
Yeah.
Right. And she in this movie,
and they're the one being let in on how it really works.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's just another. It's not an exposure of the con. It's just a different level to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And so here's Kim.
That was the game that was played. And Bischoff saw, wait a minute. Because again, they're all whores.
Yes.
So good. All right, go ahead.
I'm getting attention. I'm getting attention for pulling this off. And I'll get credit for all this. Well, the point is, keep thinking that, pal. But the point is, the only deal was money. And getting attention so that Vince gives money, or Bischoff, you can match Vince.
Yeah,
and
so it didn't matter like if where you wound up. It was just
no, it's money. It's the
go,
bottom
Kim.
fucking line. It's money. And these people are in fantasy land. And it's money.
Oh, that one right there. That one. It's money.
No, it's not only that. It's these people.
Oh, shit.
It's money, and these people are in fantasy land.
Yes.
Like, they're getting a thrill and a charge out of being able to fool people. Meanwhile, the whole point of doing any of this is so that you can get paid.
Right.
So you can create market conditions where people bid against you because you're a hot commodity.
I remember the first time I ever heard like the idea of what's the whole point of pro wrestling, and it's like about money. It was like that was like a fucking light bulb went off in my head. Like it's like holy shit, like it's so true.
Yeah, we talked about Scott Hall saying, Montreal was a work. What was his line? The only thing that's real are the money and the miles.
the money and the miles.
Those are the only two things that are real.
Yep.
Great.
And your
great.
heart, be surprised if Kim Wood disagreed with that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I lost my place here, so I got to find it.
And I love how you're kind of like, well, what's the point? And he screams over you because
Yes.
it's like, you don't get this? You don't get why we went through all of this?
Yep.
Yeah. It's money. All right.
Keep thinking that, pal. But the point is, the only deal was money and getting attention so that Vince gives money, or Bischoff, you can match Vince.
Yeah,
And
so
then-
it didn't matter like if where he wound up. It was just
No, it's money. It's the bottom fucking line.
you could see him on a football sideline.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh,
like
yeah.
this is like, imagine just this,
Oh.
and this was important to put in the episode, like I said, because this is, we also, even though he's screaming this at me, you got to see what Brian was privy to.
Yep.
And there, this
Yes.
hints a lot at
Yes.
what their relationship would have been like, I'm sure. Like, wait, does it matter if I go to WWE? No, that's money.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
It's money. And these people are in fantasy land. And it's money. And that was all it was. And that is all that Brian, the way he ultimately thought, because I knew him, was, like I say, more wrestlers, more assholes to rip open.
Yes.
Keep going, Kim. Keep
Yes.
going. What else?
Yes.
What else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
More people to fucking, cut their head off and eat them, eat their heart.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying to you? I mean, he was a savage. He was the greatest fear, and that is, he was the real character, like the phony characters that they played.
A guy who actually would fuck you up.
Why?
Didn't train to pretend he could fuck you
Cut.
up.
We're done. That's it.
I was just gonna say.
That's it. We're done. That's it.
Why was that not all in the episode? Every fucking line. Someone's getting their asshole ripped open.
Yeah, it's
Pointing
apparently
fingers.
courtesy of Brian. But here, gentlemen, and I share your sentiment, stop there, but here is the ultimate, to me at least, twist to this whole thing. And we'll part on this.
Okay.
In the end, Pillman became a victim
Yes.
to this mentality. He was not above this mentality,
Right.
as Kim Wood hoped for.
Nobody gets out.
Kim Wood hoped that Brian would find a way to get so immersed in this world of manipulation that he could go to the bank with that and then do something else. But Brian was hopelessly enmeshed in this world.
That's right.
And there is a quote here, a clip 8. The Calgary rib comes back around. Okay, you remember when they tied the wrestler to the front of the car and pretended they were going to murder him and all that? Turns out that when you're able to manipulate other people to that degree and strike fear in their hearts like that, it's kind of addicting.
Yes.
You kind of don't know when to stop doing these things. You kind of don't know when to stop using this gift that you're given to manipulate people and convince them something is real that isn't. And so for Kim Wood, it came down to an episode he had with someone Kim knew. He called him an Ohio street fighter, last name Gaduli. I don't know if he was a boxer or what, but he's telling this story about how Brian and Gaduli and him are all together in like a bar setting or something like that. And here Brian just suggests, in a context where it was wholly inappropriate, even more so than usual, let's pull another Calgary rib on this Gaduli. He thinks he's a tough guy. Let's do this. And Kim's like, Brian, this is not the time. Like, you don't understand. There are limits to when this is appropriate.
Right.
And I mean, there's a mic drop moment here that, was sent from another dimension as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know if I remember this one. All right,
let's have Kim bring it home.
But anyway, I go to the boxing matches with my son, and Gaduli's there. Gaduli was a street kid grew up in Newport, and his best friend was Dave Cowens, a great basketball player. But Gaduli was famous because he coached basketball, but then he trained fighters and he trained football players, and he's just a diamond in the rough. He's a great guy, but he ain't somebody that's going to understand wrestling. And Brian shows up, and we're all sitting at a table, and Brian goes, "Look at this." And he's got his bomber jacket on, and he pulls out a gun. He says, let's have some fun with Gaduli.
Oh.
Okay. I said, no. He says, let's have a Calgary rib, just a Calgary rib. Oh my God. And I said, no.
Just one more Calgary rib.
Yeah.
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 Like that's
it's he's jonesing for that. Like he's
Well put.
Yep. He needs it.
that's crazy. Okay, here we go.
And I said, no. I said, don't do it with him. I said, one or both of you are going to get killed right here, right now, and you're both friends of mine. I said, don't do that. And he said, "No, I'm gonna have a little fun, Calgary Rib with his gun, and your buddy." And I said, "Don't fucking do it." And I said, "John, let's get out of here."
I'll fucking walk if we fucking do that.
Yeah.
I said, "Dave, be careful. Just go someplace else. Go." And I said, "Brian, I'll see you. Good luck to you." And that was the third to the last time I saw him. That he was, and he had, you can't. I'm trying to say to you is that he became, I'm not really addicted, but the kayfabe and the put on. It's a goose up to some people because it gives them power, and power we know is something that addicts people. Despite the other shit that might addict people, that they're taking, So the point is that I just say to you that in some way he became his own mark.
That's it.
Brian Pillman, dead in 1997 at way too young of an age.
Damn.
For sure.
So that'll do it. This week for Dark Side of the Ring Unheard
How do you top that?
on Kim Wood. Well, we're going to work on it. Don't forget the next episode of Season 6 of Dark Side of the Ring premieres Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Vice TV, an examination of the career of super heavyweight Vader. And then next time on this here Unheard series, we're going to take a look at, we're going to take the measure, okay, and that's not easy to say, of one of the largest presences to ever loom over the world of professional wrestling, the madman from the Sudan, or some say Windsor, Ontario. Abdullah the Butcher, next time on Unheard.